Lighthouse Night Owl, his birth name Owen, manned the fort 7 nights a week. He had found bliss and comfort in solitude. Not that he didn't enjoy company, laughs, and stories from friends and family. He just embraced the solace of quiet. The towering lighthouse was a beacon to the heavy tones of life and kept him balanced. It was an important job, keeping the ships and its cargo, which were the humans, safe after long, hard journeys, delivering goods to the Nova Scotia shores. He was kind of a North Star. Although he rarely met the captains or passengers of the ships, he felt a connection, and it made him feel whole. You could hardly fault Henry for how he turned out. Babies need love. They need to be comforted when their small brains are forming. They need to mirror the smiles on their mothers' faces. They need to know they are safe. Clara knew she had made a terrible mistake the second they put Henry's soft pink screaming body on her chest at the hospital. What had she done? She resented him from the get. She wanted to retract her decision at around 7 months. Growing a strange foreign alien that was living off her body, literally sharing her blood and food, a tiny little parasite. Her skin was glowing, but her chest hurt constantly. Her guilt was palpable. She knew she should love him, but she felt nothing. She went to postpartum support groups, walked with other moms, and nothing changed. She tried to stroke his hair and hold his hand, but her skin pricked when she did. She did not love the smell of his fresh, warm baby head. She was not delighted by his coos as he looked up at her. She could never move the furniture of her heart around for this thing she created and now had to keep alive. It didn't help that he was not an easy baby. He was colicky all the time. He never slept. Latching was an issue. She changed his diapers and dressed him and fed him, but nursing him felt horrible. That's how she got into this mess in the first place, her nibbles being licked as she lowered herself down onto Cam's body on the old green couch in his apartment, pupils dilated with desire so she could see more of him. That exquisite feeling of him unbuttoning her shirt, her hair in his face, breathing heavily, rocking against him, coming hard. She could smell him a mile away. She loved how he smelled. She used to joke that she could pick him out of a scent lineup. Blending DNA with someone you've known for 2 months is arguably not wise, but they were blind sick with love and did it anyway. The first part was decent, then Clara changed. She became hard and crab-eyed. Cam couldn't take her, the stranger she had become, so he packed up to Tofino, and there she was. Clara mimed her way through the first few years, play dates and Christmas presents, bedtime stories, Tooth Fairy. She kept his baby teeth in an envelope because that's what other moms did. She sometimes felt it. One day he fell and she kissed his scrape, got a bit of blood on her lip, and felt a small pang in her chest. That's where you're supposed to feel it, right? But it faded quickly. Henry knew his mom did not love him when he was around 3. She did not reflect what he saw of other moms picking up their kids from daycare, smiling, hugging, and asking about the day. She never put her cheek on his forehead to see if he had a fever. She never looked happy to see him, only resigned. Henry started to act out for her attention, crawling out of his bed and into hers, his tiny feet navigating in the dark, putting his mouth against her ear in the faint light, then screaming, ruining her only respite from him. At around 5, the need for attention summoned something more sinister. He started putting hard toys beside her bed so she would trip when she got up in the morning. He felt some wicked glee when he heard her fall, smirking from his room. The mutual resentment grew and grew, like the view of a city from an airplane at night. Their cancerous disdain of each other sprawled wildly. She laughed quietly to herself when he burnt his tongue on soup. He put holes in her favorite scarf. Every time they crossed a bridge, she fantasized pushing his small 6-year-old body off it. He started putting dead birds in the fridge for her to find in the morning when she went to get cream for her coffee. By the time his 20th milk tooth was in that envelope, it was game over. The new Henry was formed. You can read about him in the news. Alton did not know how she managed to get on that ship in the first place. She hated the sea and the roll of the waves. They would slam, snap, bang, and clap against the hull, producing a rather nervous condition. The wood of the boat would crackle at night. She hated the animals in the hall where she slept, their moos, oinks, and hoots, and that fucking rooster named Kenneth with his cock-a-doodle-doo every morning. How did he know it was morning? When he was in the dank darkness, his internal clock must have been sharp. The snap of the sails was sometimes disconcerting. The ship was bouncy and would make her sea legs and her belly weak and green, but she was a stoic creature and did not whimper. She sometimes felt the deep dark sea was turning her heart slowly and surely into a callus, like her hands from all the work. One of her only comforts was the ship dog Pogo Stick, who was fluffy for a wiener dog. He would woof at the waves and was the only friend she had on the voyage. He would snuggle up to her in her bedclothes at night. It was the only welcome touch. He would catch rats by day, as was his nature, as a ratter, but she would still welcome his kisses. She was one of only 2 women in the scullery, and she did not much care for Sarah, who would shush her and pfft while suffering the daily drudgery of peeling potatoes and carrots. She was a mean soul, salty as the sea they were traversing, and ruling over everything like Genghis Khan. Everything they served was slop and gruel and never met with thanks. The sailors were an untoward and hard group of men, just human versions of a fart or burp. She did not need to see another bare white ass while the ship hands were pissing over the stern, another yucky pale penis, their drunken snoring at night like an air horn, their liquored spit littered the deck. They were clumsy with meanness, brash and cold. Brr. She would sometimes go on deck at night and take in the stars, while the men were passed out from drink, when their sloppy and stolid steps would cease and allow her a quiet bit of peaceful aloneness. She wished she had not taken this wretched job. She would have been happier with Pogo Stick cold on Uranus. She would jettison everyone on the ship in a second to put her feet on land again, every last one of them. She missed her parents' house, the ottoman in her bedroom, where she hid her treasures and diaries, a place of comfort and warmth and normalcy. She missed her mom's breasts, which she would hug into when she was upset, hearing her heartbeat, which is the first sound you are aware of before you are born, but this was not her lot in life. One day, 2 months into the voyage, she heard a honk from a bird, which indicated they were close to land. She could see the island and sun, and let it into her colorless, tired face, and she exhaled, lustful for land. It felt like she had been holding her breath for a decade. As the men roped up the ship, she acted quick and stuck Pogo Stick under her dirty apron, close to her skin. Shh. He understood her perfectly, as they had developed a secret language. She all but ran off that ship. The sand was so hot, the air smelt like nothing she had ever smelt in her life. When she got to Port of Lices, she turned her back on that stinking ship. Pogo Stick jumped in the water, and his eyes glimmered. A man selling fruit on the beach looked at her with kind eyes and a smile like she had never seen. Prop! Hello! Are you hungry? He asked her in a dialect her ears had never heard and made her tingle. He passed her a strange-looking fruit. I don't know how to eat this. It's a passion fruit, miss. Here, I will show you. Alton took a bite, as the fruit vendor had showed her. Gulp. Her mouth and belly felt love. She smiled for the first time in months. New life.
Overcast sky. Turkey vulture with a shotgun hole in its wing that you can see through. May or may not have been an easy one. Who knows? Who knew? I've been eye-fucking that place for over a month, but the moment was never right. I could never get the timing of the cars down. The Mennonite farm across the way had some kind of an incessant parade of transport trucks carrying sad pegs, which felt appropriate to the temper of the times during the dark days. I saw myself in their panicked eyes. The other sunny day, I went at it another way and took the river, but I spooked a goose who was hiding in the flats behind the shelter she made from winter grass, and she squawked something awful for about 15 minutes. If they were not in fact home, the neighbors would have heard. There were piles of sticks carefully curated by small hands near the fire pit that had been there for a week or two getting sun dry and had not seen flame. When the seed in the feeder had not been refilled for enough time that the birds were no longer looking for scraps below it, I made my move.
The fluorescent light flickered above Yvette's head. The dryers hummed in unison, like a subtle and inconspicuous jackhammer in her brain. She rolled perm rollers into her mannequin. How much money to give a doll a hairdo? It had been months since she began at hairdressing school. It was tedious and smelled of chemicals, and furthermore she had to deal with two-tone Linda in her tassel leather jacket, always telling her that she should really invest in contacts because her glasses were passé, that coming from a woman with black roots into bleach blonde hair. Great, Linda, I'll think about it. The day chugged on, slowly, achingly, no clients. Her mannequin was under the dryer now, on its second look of the day. The clock would take a minute's leap forward, and then seemed to pop back the second Yvette looked up to see how far it had progressed. Stupid jerk clock. The doorbell jingled and broke the air stagnancy, which was thick as smoke, and in walked a funny little man with a scruffy face, massive brown, tatty hair out of the fashion of the 80s, a short, long vibe. He strolled over to Yvette, removed her mannequin head from her workstation, and sat in her chair. "Cut it all off," the man said, with a push that was annoying and arrogant. "I beg your pardon? I want you to cut my hair. Short." Slightly bewildered at the man's curtness, Yvette jumped into action, as she was always eager to remedy bad hair, and began cutting with relish. She snipped all but an inch of the man's smoke-smelling hair until it laid in a pile by her feet. "Just out of curiosity," she said as she spun him around, handing him a mirror to offer him a look. "What made you decide that today was the day for you to cut it all off?" "Well," the man drawled, "I've been thinking about it for a while, but mostly it was because I got in a fight with my dog." "Your mom?" "No, my dog. I got in a fight with my dog." Puzzled and amused, Yvette decided against any further questions, and finished brushing off his neck, took his cape off, thinking about how this made strange sense. People always cut their hair after a breakup, so why couldn't it be for a dog? The man tipped only $1, but looked pleased, but left with few pleasantries. After hair school that day, Yvette plunked herself into the passenger side of the car where Melanie had been waiting to pick her up, as she did every Friday. "I met the funniest man today," Yvette said. "Oh yeah? Tell me about it." The car turned right onto Victoria, and as Yvette began her story, they passed a man with a new haircut walking a dog who was wagging her tail ferociously. My sweetheart grabbed a wine bottle, which was filled with water, that was sitting on the bedside, and whispered to me, "Shh," gesturing with his left hand to get behind him. He made me hold my breath, his beautiful finger to his mouth, forefinger over lips, which I could see in the moonlight. I am no dummy, and I trusted him, so I followed suit. After a few minutes, I walked behind his quiet paces on the carpet of the place we were renting. How did we get in this mess? We stayed slow and quiet for a beat or two. The men came in. We tried to hide, but I could not squish under the bed. It was too tight, even though I was small. What in the fuck did we do to them? They stole our lot in that rental as we were on the ground. Then it got ugly as sin. It was a quick duck and dive for about 2 minutes. Richard trying to pull me out to safety while the men pulled me back. It was a wicked tug of war. Their hands on my feet, me kicking and screaming. Richard's arms hooked under my armpits. I eventually got loose by biting hard. My sweetheart, bloody and bruised, got me the fuck out of there. With bottle in hand, he swung wildly. We never talked about it much, but we would side-eye from time to time, and I knew what he was remembering. We raised 2 babies who look equal parts like us, his beautiful blue eyes, but my mouth. He made our home warm, was the first dad in the cold to meet them from the school bus, poured baths for me, clumsily put his feet like a potato bug on my warm belly while he was settling into bed, kissed my face and smelled my hair. He did not mind if I was bleeding when we made love. He loved me any way I arrived to him. We shared each other's clothes. We sat on the floor eating food in the evenings and drinking wine, which he would never pour from the bottle after that horrible night, talking about our days while our baby slept.